As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date with the latest information. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. A 23-year-old former USU football player was sentenced to 6 months in jail a week after pleading guilty to sexually abusing a woman more than 4 years ago. Jamal Anthony Evans refused to speak before the victim's family called him pure evil. Evans was sentenced Wednesday afternoon in First District Court. He accepted a plea deal last week, pleading guilty to forcible sexual abuse, a second-degree felony. Evans was arrested in June 2018 after a female USU student reported being raped to school officials. She explained how she went to a small party at a residence in Logan and met the defendant. The woman told investigators while at the party she consumed alcohol and passed out. Afterwards, Evans raped her, although she could not remember what specifically happened. As part of the plea agreement, prosecutors decided to drop charges of rape and forcible sodomy in exchange for Evans' guilty plea. They also agreed to recommend a sentence of 6 months in jail instead of prison time. During Wednesday's sentencing, defense attorney Shannon Demler asked the court to follow the jail recommendation and grant his client work release. He explained how his client was sorry for what happened. He said the case had been difficult for both sides, derailing Evans' education and sports future. The victim's father read a statement from his daughter calling Evans' actions disturbing and sick. He explained how she was also cheated out of her college career. He said the defendant acted like a predator, thug, and coward. Judge Brian Cannell expressed hope for the victim's healing. He refused to grant any work release and noted that if it had not been for the attorney's plea deal, Evans would be heading to prison. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight. Mostly cloudy, low near 10, sunny around 30 on Friday, sunny lower 30s on Saturday. We reached 38, and right now it's 34 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Logan Dental Associates in Logan and Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Do you have health benefits that need to be used before the end of the year? Make your appointment now. Call today for your appointment with Dr. Taylor, Larson, Harris, or Preby.
We might all agree that a vacation to Vegas is good, but Hawaii is better. Same thing when you're building. Wood is good, but metal is better. If you're considering a new building for your farm or business, let Northern Steel Building show you the benefits of metal. Metal is stronger with little or no maintenance, and it doesn't burn. Find out how affordable a metal building really is by visiting northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com, or call 435-677-7300.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Despite recession storm clouds on the horizon, Utah's financial picture is looking good. The Utah Legislature's powerful Executive Appropriations Committee announced a $1.3 billion surplus, up to $3.3 billion, including reserves already allocated. With that much money from tax revenues and funding, lawmakers are looking at a tax cut. On Wednesday, the legislature's Interim Revenue and Taxation Committee passed a bill to cut the income tax rate from 4.85% to 4.8%. The modest half a percentage point is not expected to stick. Legislative leaders are expected to go lower. The Utah Taxpayers Association, a tax watchdog group, has urged the legislature to make a deeper cut, but some advocacy groups on Utah's Capitol Hill argue that there should be no tax cut. Instead, the money should go into other needs in the state. And a 4-vehicle crash Wednesday in Roy sent 2 people to the hospital and caused a fight that ended with a gun being drawn. Stuart Hackworth with the Roy Police Department told KUTV the incident happened just before 2 p.m. near 5400 South, 1900 West. He said one vehicle ran into the back of another and pushed that car into 2 additional vehicles. According to Hackworth, one person got out of their vehicle and hit the initial driver, which started a fight between the two. The driver pulled out a gun in self-defense, according to police. They say that the driver was cooperating with the investigation. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Taking news to an all-new level. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
We are at Anderson Seed and Garden for the Christmas open house. This continues through Saturday at 69 West Center Street in downtown Logan. Chance to come in and participate in the scavenger hunt for that $1,200 fully decorated Christmas tree that they're giving away. There's no purchase necessary. And speaking of great deals, we're here with Mark Anderson. Right now you have a special going on. It's called White Christmas. Explain how this works.
Yeah, this is the 5th year we've done our White Christmas, and the way it works is for our first 50 customers that buy $500 or more, you'll be automatically entered into our White Christmas giveaway. If it snows 4 inches of snow on Christmas Day, from midnight Christmas Eve till 11:59 p.m. on Christmas Day, so that 24-hour period, if we get 4 inches of snow here at the store, we'll refund everybody's money that entered into the White Christmas. And so we're kind of getting down to the end. I think we've got close to 40 people, so we only have about 10 more slots left. And $500 or more will enter you in for that White Christmas giveaway, and we are hoping it snows on Christmas.
Be a perfect Christmas gift for everybody. And also, as we look ahead, next weekend is Thanksgiving, and after Thanksgiving, of course, they're going to have the downtown tree lighting ceremony here on Center Street, as they'll light up Center Street and the parades. A lot of fun things going on that day.
Oh, there's a lot of great things going on. So not only are there going to be like food trucks here, and we'll have the American Festival Chorus doing caroling, but the Christmas parade's at 5 o'clock, and then right after the Christmas parade, then they'll turn the lights on the Christmas trees on Center Street. There'll be food, there'll be excitement. Of course, we'll have all kinds of sales going on here at the store, and there's a secret out that's kind of starting to get out that we'll be roasting chestnuts on Center Street. So if you've never had roasted chestnuts, just like in the song, you'll have your chance to try some roasted chestnuts. So it should be a lot of fun. Mark Sourdough Pizza is going to be opening up next door to us. He's going to be helping us roast those chestnuts, and we'll be sharing those out on the street. So it should be a lot of fun.
We've all sang the song for years, and now you can have a chance to try it out. That's going to be coming up November 26th, which we should also mention is Small Business Saturday. And so it's going to be a lot of fun here at downtown Logan. But make sure you come by this weekend for the Christmas open house. This continues through Saturday at Anderson Seed and Garden, 69 West Center in downtown Logan.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology cares about you and your hearing. Dr. Paul Danes has always called Cache Valley home and cares about its people. And Dr. Danes offers state-of-the-art equipment, allowing him to provide the best service and care possible when it comes to your hearing. So if your hearing isn't what it used to be, give Dr. Danes a call at 753-HEAR or visit CacheValleyHearing.com to see what they can do for you.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Thursday, November 17th. I'm Jason Williams, Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And we are kicking things off here in Hour 2 with a special guest joining us from the Utah Office of Energy Development. We have with us this hour Communications Director Harry Hansen, and he's going to be talking to us about a report released today. Similar to the task force convened by Cache County Executive David Zook, hoping to find answers to a question we've all wondered most of our lives. Why are gas prices oftentimes 30, 40, even 50 cents higher here in Cache Valley than they sometimes are same day over in Box Elder or Willard counties, or the Willard area in general? So the answer to that, who knows? We'll see. But that task force continues to work. At the state level, at the request of Governor Spencer Cox, the Utah Office of Energy Development took up their own analysis, looking into the impacts of Utah's gasoline prices, and produced a report summarizing why Utah's gas prices are, on average, higher than the rest of the nation. When we saw gas prices peak this summer and start to come back down, Utah's hovered and stayed high. The governor and many others wanted to know why. So we have the earliest findings out in this report today. And Harry Hansen, Communications Director of the Utah Office of Energy Development, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. This is probably not an easy one to break down into quick sound bites, right? I'm looking at this report here. I printed it. It's a lot of graphs, a lot of numbers, a lot of data, but a lot of work went into this, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's very, very nuanced. But if you haven't had a chance to read it, any of your listeners, we've tried to really simplify it as much as possible. So I recommend reading that report. But really what it comes down to is it's a supply and demand issue. So we're having a situation here in Utah and really across the West as a whole where there is gasoline or refined product supply that is going down and demand is not going down along with it. Demand is either remaining consistent or else actually increasing, and that's the case here in the state of Utah. And as we see those that demand for gasoline, for other refined products continue to remain consistent while supply is going down, well, that has upward pressures on the price of gasoline, and that's what's affecting Utah predominantly, Utah's prices.
The report, Harry, says, this can be explained somewhat easly in that it is a decrease in the number of refineries, right? Or at least a decrease in refining output for one reason or another. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. So there is I'm sure you're very well aware, and most of the listeners as well, there is a nationwide push for switching away from traditional fuels. And what that's done is caused refineries to, especially over in the West Coast, to close their operations. And what that does, especially when demand doesn't follow suit, then there's a void. People still want the supply. So where are they going to get it? Well, if you're coming from, Las Vegas, for example, and you're usually getting your supply from California, but they just decrease their supply. Well, then you're going to look elsewhere, and Utah's the next best place. And so Utah refineries are supplying other markets outside of the state that are higher priced. And so, again, bringing up those prices and a higher pressure for that price point in Utah.
I thought this was interesting, Harry, as to the answer when we saw, states even around us here in the West and their prices go down, yet ours didn't. There was this one paragraph in the executive summary that really stands out, and it seems very important. It says the price of an average gallon of gasoline comprises roughly 10% distribution and marketing costs, 15% taxes, 28% refining costs and profits, and 47% for the price of crude oil. So what that says basically is half of the price of gas Utah could do nothing about, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? The cost of a crude barrel of oil is typically the highest contributing factor into what ultimately goes into a gallon of gasoline. But in Utah, we found out that the crude oil that we get, whether it's from Wyoming or Utah or Colorado or even Canada, those prices are typically, on average, lower than the average price of crude oil across the United States. So that's actually not where the issue is here for us specifically.
That's the one part we don't control, but probably not the biggest contributor as well to our gas price situation. For listeners, I just want to take a moment to recommend, as Harry did, that you read this, because a lot of this, Harry and I can't do justice on air because you're looking at graphs, you're looking at some data, you're looking at some amazing comparison charts between different segments of the United States that are grouped together due to distribution and supply chains, things like that. It really gives you a deep understanding of not just Utah, but fuel distribution throughout the United States. And Harry, the executive summary does say we're not helpless in this, right? There is quite a bit we can do to try and keep things at least a little lower here in Utah in the future.
Well, there are some solutions that could help alleviate those price points, right? And really a lot of it's left up to the free market. We don't want to get overburdened some of the government, right? That's what's causing the higher prices in California, which is requiring them to look elsewhere for gasoline. That's why we're experiencing this anomaly, right? So we don't want to get overburdened some with our regulations. So any free market solution, we're we would love to see that. And one of the solutions, if you go to the solutions section of the report or possible solutions, there's actually a pipeline coming in from Texas to bring refined products from basically the Gulf of Mexico up into the Rocky area between New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. So that's, I mean, I'm not a prophet or anything, but I would like to hope to think that additional competition in the refined products market in Utah would help alleviate the prices.
So basically, if we had, more, and again, we're not talking crude oil in barrels. We're talking refined, usable gasoline. If we had more sources
Correct.
of that coming in, it might control things a bit more. This is something that Utah's been working on for a while, right? I mean, it's fair to say we're not looking at gas prices right now and going, oh, wow, we didn't see this coming. That's not at all the case, right?
Well, it's been an interesting couple of years, especially the last 2 years as prices have increased nationally and worldwide.
Oh, I'll bet.
There are a lot of pressures that affect the price of gasoline, right? And
Sure.
a lot of it's federal and a lot of it's geopolitical. And that's why we're experiencing such high prices right now, is because of those two issues.
Sure. And we can't just call these other nations and say, hey, knock it off. Our gas is expensive. I wish we could, actually.
Oh, that would be nice.
Be a great way to solve international crisis, right? But, yeah, we're in this situation and probably in it for a bit of a long haul. But, Harry, if you can, talk a little bit about how this research was done, because this is really even beyond the question of why Utah's gas prices are a bit higher than the nation's. It's really also a deep dive into the supply chains behind all of this, some of the history even of why things go this way and that way at different times, but also some terminology that it was quite educational. I learned what something called crack spread is. but
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
it's very, very detailed report.
Well, so and it is a little detailed, and we tried to avoid as much of the industry jargon as possible to make it as easy to comprehend for the everyday Joe out there.
And it was very digestible. There's just a lot of meat to it, which I loved.
We did our job right. Good. But yeah, so really, what happened? What really made us approach it was we kind of had an idea of what was going on, but we really wanted to figure out the nuts and bolts and really understand everything in detail. And so we broke down the process of the oil and gas supply chain, the petroleum supply chain in Utah. That's production, where you extract oil from the earth, refining, where that refined product is then, created into a usable motor fuel, and then retail, where it's sold at the pump, right? So we broke down each of those sections, a little bit less so on the production side, because we knew for sure that Utah's production wasn't responsible for Utah's higher gasoline prices. But we did break down refining and retail. Basically looking at the rack prices here in Utah, we noticed that the rack price is the cost of refined products. So like your gasoline, that's where it's first sold, right, after it's refined. So that price in Utah is higher than the average around our states and the national average as well. And that was the first place and really the biggest place along the supply chain where Utah's prices are higher. And that's caused, again, because we're seeing a higher demand for our refined products, both within the state because of our increased population and without the state as well.
That is, and maybe I'm interpreting this wrong. There's a nice section here where it talks about some of the trade-offs, air quality issues, things like that also play in both in federal regulations, but also state standards and things like that. And as I'm reading through that, there's a part of me that says, okay, to some extent we might have to accept a little bit of this, right? A little bit of incremental increase. What's happening right now is, of course, a bit of an anomaly that hopefully fades and things get back down at least into the $3 a gallon range, right? But overall, long term, gas is not going to stay super cheap. We probably will never see $something gallon of gas again, right?
Well, I mean, it's a hard question to answer, but based off of the energy industry and kind of the political rhetoric right now regarding transitioning away from traditional fuels, you're right. Unless we see some additional refining capacity come back online, or unless we see new refining capacities being built, which is highly unlikely. The last major refinery built in the United States was, I think, 50 years ago, back in the 70s sometime.
Yeah, which is weird to think about.
Yeah, and so and there really is this push for transitioning away from traditional vehicles to EVs or otherwise, and there's that transition period is going to cause a little bit of heartache. And maybe we're transitioning a little too fast, and so it's causing a little bit of a higher price. If we transition slower, it would maybe cause lower price increases over an amount of time. So it depends on how fast you want to go and what trade-offs you're willing to make.
Sure. And everyone doing their best to try and get the right answers to all of this with a lot of unknowns. Do we have, from the research that went into this report, your conversations with others throughout the state, both within the governor's office, the legislature, various agencies, and more, do we have the option here in Utah to ease our pain just a little bit with additional refining? Do we have some flexibility there, or are we at capacity?
We are at capacity at Utah's refineries. They could potentially build on more. That's a detail that I'm not entirely aware of that you'll have to ask the individual refineries for. But
sure.
Utah refineries they've increased their capacity over the last decade, more so than other refineries in the region. And at this point, either because of lack of real estate to be able to expand, or lack of will by the capital investors to invest in additional fossil fuel projects, especially when the political rhetoric right now is to transition away from them.
Sure.
It's just unreasonable for a lot of people to think that we could have more capacity come online within the state.
This is, again, you can see just from our conversation here with Harry why this is an important report. If you want to understand not only what's behind gas prices in general nationwide, why they're at times a bit higher here in Utah or in the Intermountain West in general, also some details about gasoline consumption, distribution, production. All of that is included in this nearly 40-page report, but I really recommend you take some time with it because a lot of what we're talking about here is visualized with graphs, charts, and more, and it can't be easily explained here on the radio, but man, was it eye-opening. Harry, I read through this hoping simply to just have an answer to the one question it was meant to answer, which is why gas prices are a bit higher here in Utah. That got answered right in the first executive summary paragraphs, and then after that, it was a real education on prices at the pump and how all of this works. And I have to, give you a tip of the hat for putting together what is really a report that I hope gets some wide distribution so people have an understanding of how all of this works and where what the future might hold. So hats off.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it was a multi-agency effort. We worked with industry and across state agencies to make this happen. And real hats off to all their help and industry for being so helpful with us as well. I mean, it was really a multi-agency, multi-group, multi-people effort. So
this is
glad to hear it's working.
Oh, honestly, just amazing to look at. And for listeners out there, please get yourself a copy. You can download it and print it, or download and just read it as a PDF on your mobile device or a laptop computer at energy.utah.gov/publications. I've also linked directly to the report, 2022 Utah gasoline prices, the title of the report, on our Facebook page. Our guest again has been Communications Director with the Utah Office of Energy Development, Harry Hansen. And Harry, appreciate taking some time for us today. And again, thanks for what is really an eye-opening and educational report to everyone involved there at the office for putting this out. And I hope we have excuse to speak again soon.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for spreading the word. Appreciate it. I appreciate the time.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Again, for listeners, this is a report that will, I guarantee, widen your thinking when it comes to our fuel prices, the connection between even the smallest little thing, like a proposed or enacted federal tax break, which sounds great, can unintentionally have very negative consequences on other aspects of our energy environment. Everything is interconnected, and everyone's trying to do their best to figure out the future with a lot of unknowns, including here in the state of Utah. So the report really hammers that home, but at the same time, you walk away from this nearly 40-page report with a very deep understanding of how all of this works here in Utah specifically. Give it a look. Download it again at energy.utah.gov/publications, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
If you haven't got your trees trimmed yet, this is it. Winter is here. Not only does it prevent damage from heavy snow, but it promotes healthier trees in the spring. So call Hull Tree Care now to get your big overgrown trees trimmed. 760-6587. However, because most of us tend to procrastinate, Bobby and his team at Hull Tree Care are willing to trim trees all winter long, weather permitting. So write this number down in case you hear a big boom in the night. 760-6587. Hull Tree Care. That's Hull Tree Care.
Hi, I'm Celeste Edmonds, Executive Director of the Christmas Box House. When I was a foster child, Christmas felt like something that was for everyone but me. Christmas should be for all children. The Christmas Box is working with the Utah community to provide Christmas for nearly 2,800 at-risk children. To learn how you can help today, please contact us at thechristmasbox.org or Google us. Thank you and happy holidays.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Friday on This Morning, America's First News. You'll hear the term divided government for the next 2 years. What's it mean? And legislatively, who's playing offense and who's playing defense? Also, another reason mortgages are so high, none of the traditional buyers are purchasing mortgage-backed securities. We'll explain. And as the Great Resignation turned into the Great Remorse. Friday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to Harry Hansen for joining us. Really, take a second to download this report and read it. It's titled 2022 Utah Gasoline Prices. This was at the request of Governor Cox, undertaken by the Utah Department of Energy Development and others to basically provide a report to the governor and to all of us, that's why it's being made public, on why Utah's gas prices stayed higher when we saw them drop back down, even down to the $3.50 range in surrounding states and the rest of the West Coast. Nevada, Colorado, seeing prices at a certain point in the summer almost $1 cheaper than ours here in Utah. The report kind of lays that out, which is, I mean, the shortest way to explain this from the executive summary is it is Utah, because of how things have been set up here, and our population growth. We're basically at capacity for amount of refined gasoline we can get into the state and amount of refined fuel that we can produce in the state. We are at this point dependent on it coming in from elsewhere, and it can only come in from elsewhere so fast. So when there's a rapid spike like we saw this year due to, mostly according to the report, the war between Russia with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the effect that had on in the early part of the year on prices per barrel of oil, that then has a ripple effect, and get this, you'd be surprised, it takes a lot longer for those crude producing companies to lower their price after a spike than it does for them to spike. Go figure, huh? Big surprise there. But that does then for like the rest of the year affect gas prices around the country. And Utah being hit a little harder than that than other states. Again, because we are, due to our population growth and continued growth, we are already at capacity. So the report again lays it out. Utah has a couple of different options. We can either very much slow down our transition to alternate fuels and basically accept polluting our air more and making it even more unpleasant to live here in the wintertime, which, as Harry said, not a smart option. Or we can find a way to bring more refined fuel in, which is going to be a pipeline, which is going to be, So those are basically the only options. Well, and a third option, which may be the one we all have to accept anyway, which is just learn to enjoy high gas prices. Because eventually, as the report lays out, that's kind of where we're all headed anyway. which is, again, another reason to look into alternatives, if you ask me. But that looking to alternatives, we're talking, a 10, 20-year thing there. I think most of us would like to see gas prices go back below at least below $4 a gallon sooner than 20 years from now. But we'll see. But download the report. Again, even outside of answering that initial question, the reason it was produced, it's a really, really educational report on everything from, what the state pays for wellheads and more to the things we learned during the pandemic about supply chains, even for fuel in the United States and some of the vulnerabilities there. Just a fascinating report. It's about 40 pages long, chock full of graphs, visualizations, comparisons, and more. Titled 2022 Get Utah Gasoline Prices, produced by Utah Office of Energy Development and the Utah Department of Commerce, who also worked with the Department of Natural Resources and others to make this happen. It's quite a thing to see. You can download it at energy.utah.gov/publications. On the other side of the news, we're going to check in with United States Senator Mitt Romney. Not in person, he's busy. But Romney, it's been overshadowed because we had the passage of the Respect for Marriage Act, basically quasi-codifying same-sex marriage into federal code by saying if one state authorizes it as legal in their state, other states have to recognize that marriage certificate, basically doing the same thing as codifying it into federal law. Although, to be clear, they did not codify same-sex marriage into federal law, which who knows why. Either way, that got all the attention this week, especially here in Utah, with this surprise endorsement of the law from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They could have said nothing and sat back. It was going to pass the Senate anyway. Romney helping a few Democrats dot some I's and cross some T's to get about 12 Republicans to vote with them. And it's headed back to the House for concurrence, where it will pass and then be signed by the president. The LDS Church could have literally just sat this one out. They chose not to. I think that's historic and noteworthy, and it got a lot of attention. But because of that, overshadowed this week was some time Senator Mitt Romney spent back in D.C. grilling the director of the FBI and the Secretary of Homeland Security over a simple question. Simple two questions. What are your top 10 national security threats as you see them from your intelligence as two different organizations who work together? And the second question, how prepared are we to meet those challenges? Romney's exchange with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary and Director of the FBI is, well, it's worth hearing. And you'll do just that if you stay tuned right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:37, and the news is brought to you by Roof Rescue. USU men's basketball is on the road at San Diego tonight. Tip-off around 8 o'clock this evening. Al Lewis and former Aggie great Jalen Moore will preview the game. We're starting right at 7 p.m., and then Al, Jalen, and John Russell will be on after the game's conclusion at about 10 p.m. tonight here on KVNU. Autopsies have been completed on the bodies of 4 University of Idaho students who were found dead inside a rental house near campus on Sunday. The results show that all of them were stabbed to death. That's according to Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabott. The bodies have been released to their families. The killings have shaken people in Moscow, a college town of 25,000 residents located in the Idaho Panhandle. Police have said they do not yet have a suspect or a murder weapon. And an investigation is underway in Taylorsville after a 3-year-old child was shot and killed in their own home. Police said they received a call at around 1:15 a.m. from the Thornhill Park apartment complex near 5600 South Redwood Road. In the 911 call, a parent reported that their child had suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound. When officers arrived at the scene, they attempted life-saving measures on the 3-year-old child, but they were pronounced dead at the scene. It's still not clear how the gun went off, but police report nobody has been arrested yet. Sergeant Aaron Cheshire with the Taylorsville Police Department said they are conducting their investigation, interviewing witnesses and the parents. Officials say there is no danger to the community at this point. KVNU News Time is 5:39.
This is Mark with Roof Rescue. Most of us don't think about our roofs very often until you see shingles on the ground or water drips through your ceiling. Keep your roof in tip-top shape to protect your home, your biggest investment. Roof Rescue uses only the highest quality materials with experienced workmanship guaranteed to last. Even if you were denied by your insurance company the first time, a free re-evaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation in Cache Valley and surrounding areas. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy skies, overnight low around 10, and then sunny around 30 tomorrow. Sunny and lower 30s on Saturday. It was 38 this afternoon. Right now it's 31 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Building. Steel is stronger, more flexible, more dependable than wood, masonry, and concrete, and steel is often less expensive. See their work online at northernsteelbuilding.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Here at Anderson Seed and Garden, we're with Mark Anderson, but we're not talking gardens. We're talking Christmas and the holidays.
I know you're still missing the garden guide, though.
We are missing a little gardening because some of us still haven't gotten everything done for winter setting in. But yeah, I mean, you look through the store, and whether it's the bell tree or the Santa Claus, or my favorite, the elf tree, or the gnomes, it seems like this year gnomes and snowman decorated trees are really, really popular.
It's definitely the year of the snowman. We've got snowman kind of all over the store, different colors, different styles, but you know, it's really a big project for us to change the store over and turn it into Christmas. And so we have so many customers that come in every year. It's a family tradition for them to come in to see what's happening at Anderson's for the holidays.
And you know, we were talking about the beautiful decorated Christmas trees, but I also want to mention, too, one of my favorites is all of the nativity sets that you have as well.
Yeah, for sure. We bring in probably close to 100 different nativities, and that also takes us 2 days to set up that display. I mean, that's how long it takes because we have to go through and make sure everybody's not broken and put them out. But, I mean, it's right in the center of store. And that's the center of why we do the holidays. I mean, because Christmas is all about Christ. And so it's kind of right there in the middle of the store where you just can't miss the nativities. And we have so many different styles to choose from. And there's some really gorgeous ones. There's some that are non-breakable so your kids can play with them. And I mean, a lot of different styles to choose from. So nativities are kind of a big deal for us for the holidays. And of course, you know, you get to just kind of feel the spirit of Christmas here at the store, and between this weekend and next weekend with the parade and everything that's happening downtown and on Center Street, this is just a great time to come in and experience the holiday season at Anderson's.
This continues through Saturday, and of course a lot of events will be going on next Saturday for Small Business Saturday here in downtown Logan. So come on by this weekend at Anderson Seed and Garden and enjoy the annual Christmas Open House, one of the biggest events of the year here at Anderson Seed and Garden in downtown Logan.
Did you build a new home? Regardless of how clean your builder was, your ducts will have a variety of construction debris in them. Debris like sawdust, flooring pieces, sheetrock dust, and more. You do not want to move into your home with that debris in the ductwork. Call the Duct Hunter and get on the schedule today. Call the Duct Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
The Logan Fall Home Show is back. Join the fun November 18th and 19th at the Cache County Event Center. Friday, noon to 8 p.m., Saturday, 10 to 6. Save big on every type and category of home improvement projects. Plus, take advantage of exclusive deals found only at the show. The Logan Fall Home Show is this Friday and Saturday. Come see all things home, from roofing, flooring, windows, doors, and more. It's free with plenty of parking at the Cache County Event Center. Visit LoganHomeshow.com for more, and we'll see you there.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Thanks again to Harry Hansen for spending some time with us. Again, County Executive David Zook has convened a task force here in Cache Valley to try and provide some answers on something that most of us have wondered our entire lives: why gas prices are often 40 to 50 cents higher here in Cache Valley than they are just over the hill in Brigham City or the Perry area. So that task force continues to work. The state, though, at the call of Governor Cox, did the same thing because, as Harry and I discussed, the state of Utah saw gas prices go higher and remain higher for longer than any other state in the country. So a bit of an explanation there, at least from some preliminary findings of the governor's task force looking at this statewide. We should have some news from the county executives task force coming up soon. This was buried by, of course, election week 2, still getting a lot of headlines. Trump's big announcement this week, and Senator Romney himself being a part of the crafting and passage yesterday in the Senate, at least, of and it will pass in the House. They just have to concur with a couple of amendments from the original House bill that the Senate tacked on. The Respect for Marriage Act. This is expected to pass the House and be signed by the president by the first of next week, and it does not codify same-sex marriage into federal statute or federal law. What it does is codifies state law into federal law in some sense. Senator Mike Lee voted against. Senator Romney voted for, but was also part of the drafting of this. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints surprised everyone this week ahead of the vote by endorsing the bill, saying that it respected same-sex marriage and members of that community and their rights, while the church said also protecting some religious liberty. Basically, it reiterated what's already in the Constitution and in court interpretation of parts of the Constitution that says, no one's going to be forcing a church like the LDS Church to host allow a gay wedding to play out at a steakhouse or something like that. Now, that was already the understood law, but this spells it out even more in actual federal law now. So the LDS Church endorsed the bill, and it passed. Again, Senator Mike Lee voted against. Senator Romney helped write it and voted for, of course. And it passed. It's big news. I get it. It basically says the shortest version for understanding the Respect for Marriage Act is it basically says if one state has legalized same-sex marriage within their borders, other states must honor that. So Utah, for example, we do right now, but should the Supreme Court overturn the Obergefell decision, which, folks are thinking they're headed there, then it would be a state-by-state thing. And what this new federal law will say, once signed by the president, is if California has legal same-sex marriage, they recognize that as a marriage license, then Utah must also recognize that license. Utah doesn't have to offer it themselves as an option. If they want to undo it after the Supreme Court ruling, they're free to do so, but imagine the politics of that. Couples could still get married in California, come here and live in Utah, and Utah would have to recognize that they are a married couple. So that's basically what the law does. And again, it's expected to be signed by the president. That's big news. I understand it. But it overshadowed something that played out this week regarding Homeland Security and Senator Mitt Romney as well. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, FBI Director Wray, and others testified on Homeland Security's current list of perceived threats to American national security. And I've paid close attention to Romney on this one because, and I'll admit, I was one who laughed at the time. Romney was nearly laughed off the stage a while ago, several years ago, when he said, Russia is our biggest geopolitical, or China is our biggest China and Russia are our biggest geopolitical threats. Everyone agreed with China, but the Russia part kind of got a chuckle and got, he was sort of mocked for that. And I chuckled myself. I thought that sounded very silly at the time. Russia was basically a barely operating failed state. Well, it turns out Mitt Romney was smarter than all of the rest of us, a bit prescient in that, and Russia has become, obviously, the biggest geopolitical threat on the global stage with their invasion of Ukraine, but also with their election meddling, not just in the U.S., but in other elections as well, trying to cause chaos and destabilization around the world is their obvious intent. They are a significant geopolitical threat. So I've tracked Romney. Anytime he says anything about national security or international relations, I get an alert from C-SPAN because I've decided he must be one of the smartest people in the room. Here's what Romney had to say this week in an opportunity to question Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Director of the FBI, and others on current perceived priority list, if you will, of national security threats.
Director Wray, I begin by saying how much I appreciate the work of your agents and how much I respect them and how convinced I am of their quality. One of my sons years ago interviewed to become a member of the FBI. He was turned down. He was able to go on and get a degree at Harvard Business School and has done quite well, so he survived. But we learned from that experience that the qualifications for getting into the FBI are high indeed, as they should be. And I have great respect for the men and women who work for the FBI. There is a great deal of discussion about the political orientation of the FBI. My experience with your organization is that is not the case by and large. I'm sure there are individuals among the 38,000 who work with you who have political points of view, may leak things and may do things from time to time that are not appropriate. And I hope that you're able to evaluate them and evaluate where those come from and correct them. Can you give us a sense of how the resources of the FBI are directed? How much goes into looking at violent crimes of various kinds and human trafficking? How much goes into terrorist-related prevention? The kinds of, if you will, are there categories of effort that are carried out? Because I think there's a public perception that the whole FBI, we had to defund it because it's only doing political work. What is the FBI doing? Where are the resources devoted?
So if you were to look at our allocation of resources, and I can't give you the numbers off the top of my head, but if you were to look at the allocation of our resources, you would see that the single largest chunk is devoted to traditional criminal programs, and of which the violent crime is by far and away the biggest.
Thank you. You've spoken a great deal about the cyber attacks from state actors from China as well as non-state actors. Secretary Mayorkas has spoken about that as well. I don't know that it's possible to, through a process of defending against attacks, to prevent all the potential attacks and all the theft that will come from our businesses and into our government. It strikes me that the only effective way to stop the attacks that come from of a cyber nature is to attack back. That the best defense is a good offense. And I know your respective organizations are not responsible for the offensive side of this, but to get China to stop attacking, they've got all these private enterprises that are doing these attacks into our systems. Fighting against all these things will never stop it unless China recognizes that if they don't stop it, that they're going to be hurt more than we are. Do you believe we have a sufficient effort in an offensive effort to push back against the cyber attacks that come from state and non-state actors, and should we expand on that, and where should that reside? And I'll ask both Director Wray as well as Secretary Mayorkas and Director Abisad to respond.
So certainly when it comes to offense is a critical part of our overall effort to push back against cyber adversaries. In addition to some of the offensive cyber operations that we probably couldn't talk about in this kind of setting, there's actually a lot of progress being made in what I obliquely referred to earlier as joint sequenced operations, where we, with our partners, intelligence community partners, law enforcement partners, foreign partners, go with the whole 2 + 2 to make 5 kind of effect. So we're going after the adversary's infrastructure, we're going after their cryptocurrency, we're going after the individual actors. Some of them we can extradite, some of them we can have charged there.
Again, those were comments by FBI Director Christopher Wray. If you'd like to hear the whole conversation, including additional comments by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas and others responding to Mitt Romney's line of questioning, again, Romney basically saying, are we prepared? And the short answer of what was really a bunch of lengthy answers is probably as much as you could expect to be, but never enough. It's interesting. And again, Romney is one to watch on this stuff because it seems to be where most of his attention, focus, and education has been going lately. I've linked to the C-SPAN video of the entire conversation on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of KVN News for the People right after this.
Here for the Christmas open house. This continues through Saturday at Anderson Seed and Garden, 69 West Center Street in downtown Logan. We're here with Mark Anderson. We were just joking that, if you're looking to try to get into the holiday spirit, just walk into the store. That's going to do it for you. As soon as you see the beautiful decorations, you're going to get into the holiday spirit. And while you're here in the store, you can take part in a scavenger hunt and win some prizes.
That's right. So this year we tried to do something a little bit different for the open house, and so we have a scavenger hunt that runs through the entire store. So it really kind of helps you get an idea of what we all have to offer as well, too, because it runs you through the whole store so you can experience everything. But it starts up by the front door, and you just scan a little QR code, and it will hook you up and help you find the clues and find the next clue to get to the next clue to the final prize at the end. And the prize that we have this year is we're giving away a fully decorated Christmas tree. It's worth $1,200, and it's a gorgeous tree. We're giving that tree away, but you've got to complete the scavenger hunt and take some photos and post those on Instagram to be able to enter the giveaway for that tree. But we're excited. Everybody who's been doing the scavenger hunts having a blast. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, so plan on spending a half an hour, here at the most to run through the scavenger hunt. But there's some really fun clues. There's some hidden objects to find, and everybody who's done it so far has just had a ball.
And it's a cool little idea for you, especially bring the kids down with their cell phones. They'll get into it, and you can win that Christmas tree fully decorated, fully lit. All you have to do is drop it in your front room and plug it in.
Yep, it's ready to go, and we can just shrink wrap it and deliver it right to your house as well too. So, but not only are we doing the scavenger hunt, we've got our White Christmas giveaway going on still. So, with the White Christmas giveaway, everyone who spends $500 or more, up to 50 customers. So we're getting close to our 50 customers, but for the first 50 customers, you will be entered in for our White Christmas giveaway. If it snows 4 inches on Christmas Day, here at the store, not at your cabin up by Beaver Mountain, not
here on downtown Logan,
not at your second residence in Park City. We're talking about right here in downtown Logan. 4 inches of snow, we will refund the money for all those 50 people who are participating in the program. So got to spend $500, and you got to be the first 50, and then you'll be entered into our White Christmas giveaway.
All right, so come by. You can get all the details of participating in the scavenger hunt and White Christmas here at Anderson Seed and Garden during the Christmas open house. Continues through Saturday at 69 West Center in downtown Logan.
There is a gift that goes for everyone at Cash Honda Yamaha. Take home a side-by-side, an ATV, a motorcycle. Get in early for their very limited supply of youth Honda CRF dirt bikes, from the CRF 50 to the CRF 250. Save $500 to $900 on Yamaha e-bikes. The perfect gift that goes might just be a Honda snowblower or a Honda generator. Helmets, goggles, gloves, hats, box and fly riding gear, and casual wear are popular gifts. They really do have the gifts that go at Cash Honda Yamaha at the Light in Hyde Park.
Coming up on the Friday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. Buck's going to be solo, Clay out for the day. I'll lay out all the latest for you on what the Republican majority in the House of Representatives will mean in 2023. The investigations, the look at Hunter Biden's corruption, and so much more. We'll dive into that, and also what's going on at our southern border. It's still wide open. That's coming up on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. That is about it for the time we have today, but a big announcement. I'm excited about this. It's likely going to be a one-off thing, so you're not going to want to miss it. If we can, we'll try and make this a semi-regular thing. Maybe even shoot for once a month. But I know he's a busy guy and a lot going on in his family and personal life right now. But former Cash GOP Chairman Chris Booth is coming in tomorrow to do something here with me for an hour that we have talked about doing for years, literally. When Chris and I discovered through an off-air conversation after an interview one day that we both had an affinity for history and politics and music, we started talking about, how music and politics have this really interesting relationship. It goes back hundreds of years. Well, I mean, it goes back to songs from the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and more. But in more recent history, with pop culture and popular music, it's taken on a whole kind of different life within politics in the sense of, in 2020, we had folks, threatening to sue presidential campaigns for using their song because they didn't want to be associated with, something Trump said on the stump or vice versa. So it's also become sort of a power structure in the entertainment industry that does influence where funding goes to some extent. It's a fascinating discussion we'll have tomorrow. The history from olden days to current times of music and politics with Chris Booth here in the studio. Directly following that, the For the People movie show at 5 o'clock with Andy Morgan. That is our lineup for tomorrow. Dave Ramsey for the next hour. And then Aggie Game Day with Al Lewis kicking off at 7. That's the lineup here tonight on KVNU Logan.